500 migrants a day are signing up for benefits, with foreign universal credit claimants hitting almost 1.3 million. That is up 6.7% year on year. The Home Secretary is speaking now on this very issue in the Commons, unveiling her earned settlement plan. Is it going to be strong enough? Will it get through? Will anybody be listening? Let's speak with Charlie Downs, Campaign Director at Restore Britain. Afternoon to you, Charlie.
Hello, Ian.
Now, of course, we have to look at the numbers a little closely when we talk about how many foreign nationals are claiming. Of course, that could include people who've been here for 20 years, 30 years, have a life here, worked all their life, pay taxes, etc. That's a very different story to people who've just been given settled status or right to remain, right to permanency, who've only been here for about 4 years. So there's more than one story going on here, as it were.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I was listening to Mahmood's speech in the Commons before we came on, and it was pretty strong stuff. I mean, she is being compared to Oswald Mosley by kind of people online on the left, which I think is pretty funny. The idea that just simply addressing the fact that Britain cannot foot the welfare bill of the entire world, somehow makes her some kind of fascist. It's just so funny. But this is a huge problem, and Labour are sensible to address it, if for no other reason than for their own survival. Because if they don't get a handle on the, the many problems caused by both legal and illegal immigration.
Sure.
They are going to get crushed at the next election, and the quality, the actual well-being of ordinary people in this country is going to continue to decline. Something that we revealed this week, Ian, was the fact that almost £37 million has been spent of taxpayers' money since 2019 on translation and interpretation costs for those claiming benefits. So if you just get your head around what that means, these are people who can't speak English, who are here largely at our expense, who have to have a translation service provided to them at our expense to claim benefits. In
order to claim benefits. I mean, you can't make that sentence up, right? I mean, that would sound like hogwash anywhere else.
Yeah, and this is the point, is, I am a big believer in a welfare state. I think it's an entirely appropriate thing for a country like Britain to have. I think this kind of American attitude that if my neighbour gets cancer or falls on hard times, then it's not my problem and he should, pull himself up by his bootstraps. I don't like that attitude personally, and I do think that we should be, where we can, kind of banding together to help those less fortunate in our society. Now, that can only extend to the borders of this country, however, because if it extends beyond those borders, and if we just welcome in millions of people from all around the world, many of whom are claiming benefits at our expense, then the state that provides those benefits is going to collapse because it's going to run out of money. And so we just have to get real about this issue. And I think that's what Labour appear to be doing. And whether they're actually going to follow through on this stuff remains to be seen. But it's an encouraging direction of travel, in my view.
I mean, Can Labour really steal Reform's clothes on this one? I mean, it would be extraordinary. One of the problems I sense on this, a little, Charlie, is that many people are not buying Shabana Mahmood as the messenger here. Her previous track record on these issues suggests she sits in more of a Corbyn place than she does a Farage position on this kind of stuff. She's, out there. She's filmed herself previously talking about the rights of migrants. Now, of course, you can do both. You can talk about being fair to people who are literally in desperate need. We all understand that position. But this is, completely new territory. I mean, she's talking about this Boris wave of people that came in, the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands since that came in really under Boris Johnson. So this is only in the last 5 years. And those people become eligible to seek indefinite leave to remain from January. Now, she wants to make this retrospective. So that particular group that were thinking, right, we're only a few weeks to go and we can apply for indefinite leave to remain. God knows under what basis they would, but they would be allowed to. She's saying, no, we're not going to allow that to happen. You've got to be here 10 years. You've got to prove you can do this and do that. I think most people would support that. I mean, we might ask questions as to how these people got here in the first place, but if they're not working, if that is the case, but it would be a very big departure from what you might call standard left-wing thinking on this.
I actually think that she's closer to a Blairite, to be honest, because the one thing about Tony Blair, whatever you want to say about him, is that I don't think was a particularly, you listen to him now and he's driven by pure kind of pragmatism. Like, he's not a deeply ideological person, unlike other people on the Labour benches. And I think it's those people that are going to cause Mahmood some problems in passing these reforms because they are actually driven by a kind of dogmatic commitment to human rights ideology. But Mahmood, I think I'm prepared to accept that she is somebody who can look at the situation as it is and recognizes what needs to be done about that situation, because it's not an ideological point. It's just sensible and necessary that the Boris wave, and by the way, her using that phrase in and of itself is quite funny, because that's a phrase that finds its origins on the kind of very online right. And so the fact that a Labour Home Secretary is using it is just quite funny to me.
Yeah.
But the fact that these people who came here as a part of what she calls a Tory open borders experiment, which is true, are going to cost the taxpayer upwards of £60 billion over the course of their lifetime, because they are largely unskilled workers and their dependents who are a net burden on the taxpayer. She will be looking at the same spreadsheets that we all are, the same graphs that we all are, and recognizing, look, if we don't sort this out, it's going to be a huge problem for our electoral future and actually for the future of the country itself. So I think that if they were to ignore this and if they were to double down on the kind of diversity is our strength, we need mass immigration for our economy kind of narrative, then, I think it would be the end of the Labour Party. Now, if they can turn this around, if they can turn around the problems with illegal and legal immigration, then I think that a reform government in 2029 is not a given, because it's really those issues that are getting people so angry, and rightfully so, because these are the most pressing issues of our time in this country. But if Labour can actually, put a lid on this and put this, what Starmer called a squalid chapter of our history in his Islands of Strangers speech, behind us.
Which apparently doesn't remember saying.
Yeah. Yeah, well, indeed. Yeah, I think it could be very interesting, though, how the political landscape changes.
Agreed. You wonder where it kind of leaves the Tories in all of this as well. So this is what she's been saying in the House of Commons. She's, I think she might have finished speaking now, but she certainly had a lot to say in that session. She told the Commons these new recommendations are subject to consultation, but the government proposes that those who've received benefits for less than 12 months would not qualify for settlement until 15 years after arrival. For those who've claimed benefits for more than 12 months, that would rise to 20 years. Not quite sure why it works that way round, but there you go. That's what she's talking about. I wonder how much, though, the kind of right to settlement, if you tell someone, right, if you come into this country illegally, for example, I know this figure takes in all kind of foreign nationals and migrants, etc., and the pie chart kind of does divvy different groups up into different categories. But if you, for example, had come over on a boat and somebody said, if you come to the UK, it might be 20 years before you can apply for proper residency, I think people on those boats would go, I don't care, as long as I'm there, I don't mind. I might still have a limbo status, but that's fine by me. Is that really something that's going to put people off, Charlie?
I think that's absolutely crucial, Ian. I think you're right. I think that a lot of people are going to hear this and think, well, I don't care. Whether that's because they're coming to work in the kind of grey or black economy, which is huge in this country, whether that's pedaling on a bicycle, delivering fast food to people, or selling drugs. We have a huge problem with both of those things. Illegal migrants being able to do both of those jobs almost without any kind of comeuppance. So this is the crucial question, is whether any of this is actually going to work. Because obviously the ideal outcome, in my view, of these reforms on both asylum and indefinite leave to remain would be to see a net outflow of people who are here at the taxpayer's expense, arrived in the last few years, don't really contribute anything to our society, don't speak English, don't make their kind of they don't make any attempt to integrate, whatever that even means at this point.
But it's that group, isn't it? That is the group. Yeah.
It is, it absolutely is. I mean, they are by far the most visible examples of this. But whether it will lead to that, I think very much remains to be seen. And more to the point, there is always this, this question of, sure, you can pass a law and you can have something in the statute books and all the rest of it, but is it actually going to be enforced? Is it going to be able to be enforced? Because I'll give you an example of this, Ian. I think it was 2015, there were some guidelines passed with regards to the treatment of foreign nationals in the NHS, and basically the way in which people are assigned what's called a chargeable status, which is to say they have to pay for their NHS care. And there are, I believe, 6 or 7 charging categories, which encompasses everybody from foreign nationals to tourists to literally illegal migrants. Charging category F names illegal migrants as being one of the groups that it would kind of be assigned to. And in 66% of cases, in 66% of the time, the NHS does not recoup the costs that they the money that they spent on the treatment of these people. Yeah. So this is a real problem. So we can have something on the books which says illegal immigrants have to pay for their healthcare, for example, but whether it actually happens in reality is a different story. Because right now, in that case, that's not happening. And so whether these reforms are actually going to lead to anything remains to be seen. Whether they're going to have the balls to enforce these things and to step over, inevitable human rights claims and activist lawyers and judges who are going to seek to be an obstacle to this stuff, I think is going to be the real question.
Yeah, bang on. Charlie, thank you as ever. Charlie Downs with us. He is campaign director for Restore Britain.